When a person has a hammer, they think everything is a nail. So the US has a hammer. There's no doubt it's got a big military. And it thinks that it can pound on the head of anyone and get a solution. And it never works.
Who could be next? It's obvious that the US has beefed up the democracy versus authoritarianism narrative, and this time the target seems to be China.
Democracy.
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 During the Cold War with the former Soviet Union, the world was brought to the edge of nuclear war because of ideological confrontation between the two camps. Where does it all lead? The Biden administration has rammed down people's throat that the US does not seek a new Cold War, that it was not about containing or transforming China. But is that the reality?
We're not looking for a new Cold War.
When President Biden says he doesn't seek a new Cold War, what he's trying to do rhetorically is say, I'm not responsible for the new Cold War. The Chinese are responsible for the new Cold War. What the United States wants to do is make sure it remains the world's leading country in terms of developing cutting-edge technologies and making sure that China is not a serious rival on that front.
In 2021, the Biden administration convened the first so-called Summit for Democracy. During the opening session, he stressed that as a global community for democracy, we have to stand up for the values that unite us.
民主峰会当然它的意图很明确，对吧？因为它是针对中国跟俄罗斯的，对吧？所以我觉得我自己把它称为一个行为艺术，行为艺术。因为它对中国，我刚才说，它经贸上各个方面对中国的牌也出了不少了，其实也没有多大的效应。
As the US becomes increasingly paranoid about competing against China, one wonders just how much will America's foreign policy be driven by ideology instead of reason.
I'm just not questioning their intelligence. These are all people, Tony Blinken and the Secretary of State, the one who didn't go to China to meet his counterpart because of a balloon.
Yeah.
And Jake Sullivan, who's the National Security Advisor, all have high degrees.
Right.
And the Undersecretary of State, plenty of intelligence. It's just what they're so driven by, I think, hatred of all things, particularly Putin, and also communism per se. They're so cold warriors.